So everybody, like people, thank you so much for joining us today. This is the fourth event of AST, Art Science Tech. What we're trying to do here is promoting the importance and like idea of transdisciplinary thinking. So I try to bring interesting people in a different fields and try to share the experience with like-minded people. Let's see what kind of ideas coming up afterwards. And today we have Lior. He's a performance-based artist. Of course, who are here, I think, have already read the description. So he has transformed himself various times in his life, from soldier to hunter to bodybuilder and many different things. So today I like to discuss with him like how, first of all, how he has transformed himself various times, because it always includes emotional, like fear, excitement, all these kind of things, right? When there are changes. And we can explore how he can actually, implement his creativity into reality. And today it's going to be like a panel, like a casual conversation between you and me. And after our conversation, we take questions from the participants. So feel free to join. And yeah, I hope people enjoy today. Cool. So maybe, yeah, we can start just like, some basic things.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Masaki.
It's
an
my
honor.
absolute pleasure. What's interesting for me, first of all, is that, we share some similarities that because myself, I have changed my career quite many times, from mixed martial arts fighter to finance to work for a software company. And now I do also art. I write books. So a lot of different things. And it has been kind of a weird thing for most of the people. But when I, first saw your, website and everything, like such an interesting person, like, we have so many things to share. So that was the first thing. And that's why I was so wondering, okay, like I'd like to know more about your like life transition, because you're not the typical artist who started at a very young age, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can share a little bit more about like,
Yeah, I think that, you're right. I think for most of my peers and people that I met along the way, and I started my artistic career in Israel, then New York, and now I'm back in Israel. I think that the majority of the people that I met pretty much started with art and got a solid base from a very young age. And it wasn't the case with me. I think that I told you the first time I visited an art museum was in the age of 26. Like before that, I had like zero clue. And like nobody at home spoke about art. Like I didn't have any expectations, desires, or knowledge. And everything for me happened by coincidence. And I think it started, I was in Africa for 3 years in my early 20s. And I conducted the malaria, almost died, went back to Israel to get a medical treatment.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. Photography was then like a hobby. And then I decided, okay, maybe I will try 1 year and I will see how it goes. And from here to there, it became my career. And I think that it was a starting point for me. I think it's a great advantage to, in a way, to feel like something is new to you, even though it's not. But
yeah,
I kind of used my fascination and my energy and started to push on that direction, and I think it kept my freshness as opposed to peers that study in high school and even before and came with a background and craft and knowledge and practice. So for me it was different, and I needed to work twice as hard in order to catch up.
You wanted to be a professional basketball player when you were young, right?
Yeah. I grew up as an athlete. The problem is that I'm very short in height, and it didn't came up to fruition. and I think that I grew up with a very strong like physical education. I was very much invested in sports, and I think, I mean, still today I'm physically I'm strong, and yeah, I saw myself as an athlete, and I think everything changed once I decided to go to the army in the age of 18. As you know, in Israel, it's mandatory, and things started to change, I think, with my perspective.
And what brought you to Africa after that?
Yeah, Africa. I think after I think that I knew from a very young age that I'm not going to stay in Israel for long. I don't know. It was like an intuition that I had that I wanted to be someplace else. And right after I finished my service, I left Israel, and I think it was maybe 6 years of traveling. And in the beginning, I went to work for different organizations in Africa, and then I kept going by myself, and I fell in love. It was I realized that I wanted to have like unique experiences, and I think that I've been in many places around the world, but especially I have something very special to Africa.
Explore the world, right? And then how it happened, like from that like athletic life to explore the world, and how it happened, okay, I'm gonna be an artist. Like what was
I think I mean the thing is that I got my technical training in photography in the army for intelligence purposes. So after that, like I started to see, like, deal with photography as a hobby. So I think I bought my first camera when I was 22, and it was like something that I like to do. And when I traveled, usually I used to take a lot of pictures, and it was like something that, like, a very common hobby. I conducted the malaria after 3 years, and I needed to go back. Back then, I was in Sierra Leone, in the west side of Africa, and I went back to Israel because I was in a very bad physical condition, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I needed time to heal, and you know, and then I heard about this place called Bezalel, which is the most prestigious art academy in Israel. Is based in Jerusalem. And I decided that I want to go to an open day to see if it's like for me, and then I went, and like I was clueless. Besides the point that technically I was savvy, and things started there pretty quickly, and that's how I started.
Yeah, you know, I sometimes get questions, or maybe quite often. You know, is it not scary to jump into, for example, my background, MMA, finance, and jump into art? It sounds kind of crazy, and many people wonder, you know, for example, if it's not scary or not. And how about you? Like, was it scary for you to, for example, jump into a completely different field?
I think that I realized from I realized from I think a very young age that fear is a very important component for me. Like I think that once I grew up, I started to do things like to go to the edges and to explore the things that I could do, like physically, emotionally. So I think that I have this built-in desire to go to edges of things. And I think that I saw this pattern as well in the art academy when I always went to deal with a certain difficulty or intensity that you can consider as the edge of the frame. And I think that I realized when I started to work around to work with creativity as a generator, that fear is a very important component in order to push creativity even further. So I think it's one of my compasses in order to realize if I need to do something or not. to work with fear. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
usually it's something that if I feel it, it means for me that I need to do it, because there is something, there is a trigger. It's kind of energy that probably you need to resolve, you need to work with. Other than that, like it becomes boring. So I think that fear puts you on a certain edge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I totally understand that. Like when you're facing fear, it's also, you can say that it's a special moment. You don't, it's not something you have in your daily life. You are not just repeating or staying in your comfort zone, right? So possibly when you actually, detect a fear, that's the direction maybe you can go or you can follow.
no doubt. I think that I always felt that my life was boring. Always. Like
Really?
I didn't see any justification to keep my routine and my, I don't know if identity, but I had an issue with that, and I felt that I needed to change. I think it drag another conversation after probably a couple of topics, but I felt that I need to push myself towards something else that will keep me interested to, to confront or to do things that will be untraditional from the place or the community that I was part of. And I think that fear is a big instrument. And I think that when I further dug deeper and deeper in art, I think that it's definitely something that you must confront. I mean, you must work with. I have a problem and fears from to work like on auto mode. So I'm always trying to break that and to try to deal with new things in order to invent something. I think it develops creativity. Once you encounter different problems, it forces you to change. And I think change is something that I welcome warmly. Yeah.
How did you learn it, for example? Was it like you have been like that by nature, or you acquire? Because I think your response to fear is something, makes you different from others or not. Because fear is just fear, but everybody can feel fear. But how you respond to it is something different, right? So in your case, how did you learn that, how you deal with fear?
I don't know. I think it goes to my biography. I think that artists, and we spoke about it in the beginning of this Zoom recording, that I think that artists in many cases have they have a complexity in their biography, their history. And I think that something is rooted with me and fear, way back. And I grew up in a very untraditionally, I don't have a solid family. I grew up on the streets since I was like 16, 17. So I think that I understood from a very early age that I need that I'm alone, and I need to learn. Like I didn't have any resources, so I needed to get them. I needed to learn how to work with people. Nobody taught me that, and I think it forces you to deal with certain situations. And so I think my biography really helped me to I don't know, it's difficult, but I think that it really developed some characteristics components that further along the way really helped me to to do certain artistic things. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, like you naturally cultivate that attitude, right?
Yeah, I think that especially with the kind of practice that I have today, I have a very special relationship with life, art and life, and it's a question that I have. What is more important? Because you can say that often the art that we do is even more important than life itself. So I always deal with this complexity with art and life, and often I like to cross between them. and I think that I think that I understood that you have to have the life component in order to have the art one. And I think that once I understood, the sizes, the scale, it really had, cleared some things, some issues that I had with it. And I think part of it is to accept yourself or past, your bio, the things that you did. There are a lot of things that I'm ashamed of, that I did in the past, that relates to the being an Israeli. It's really complicated. But I think this complexity really helps you to it's a very strong generator to deal with problems, with fears, with actions, with directions.
Totally makes sense. Actually, what I learned most after I started art is the importance of accepting myself.
Yeah.
And especially those part you tend to ignore, those ugly part of yourself, something you feel shame, but that's something super important. And especially when you accept that part of yourself, like the way you deal with fear also changes, you can realize. And now it makes more sense when I ask you, what is art for you? You said, disrupt, disturb, and interfere.
Yeah.
So now it makes more sense for me why you said that. But maybe you can elaborate more the idea.
I think that I think it goes so much deeper questions or issues about art. I mean, for example, what is an artist is in one society? Do you actually need to be among other people, or can you do art on a deserted island? If you are by yourself, maybe the actions that you do are not art. I mean, it really draws a lot of questions. Who are your audience? Yeah. Or you do it for yourself and you don't want to show what you do. I think that being an artist for me, I think it goes to the point that we talked about, being the black sheep. In a way, I can really affiliate with that feeling of trying to do things that not necessarily the environment and really understand, and like automatically kind of puts you in a very like being a little bit like an outcast, like you're somebody else that doing things that not most of the people don't really understand. I think it goes a lot about observation, a lot about reflection. So I think there is a dialogue, secretly or not, with the community that you're a part of, and I think that communication that an artist sometimes trying to create with his environment, I think defines something. And I think I always think, what is the kind of connection that I want with the place that I'm working in? I think it really goes, for example, for the fact that whenever you see an artist, usually you see next to it, okay, he's based in Tel Aviv, or he's based in Madrid, or he's based in New York. I think it's really crucial, because it's really important for us to understand somebody's actions in terms of the context, the space, and the time. And I think for me, it really takes me to a certain dialogue that I want to have with the people that I'm working with, the place that I'm living in. So I think.
Yeah, that's so true, because a lot of ideas, especially, when I create something, they come from like internal dialogue, dialogue with myself, like some questions I have, frustrations or desire or whatever. In your case, for example, how is your creation influenced by different cities or countries? Do you feel like radical differences?
Yeah, I think that I'm a kind of artist that I need to move all the time. I don't like to stay in one place. I am not a studio-based artist at all. For example, that's something that I like consciously attacked in the past. That, for example, whenever I felt too comfortable about my studio, I kind of left it and went someplace else because I need to feel that I'm maybe not secure. I'm not too comfortable, because once you go there in the art, it becomes dangerous. So I think I have a constant urge to move in order to change perspective. And I think that's something that, I feel that I have advantages upon other people, is the point of view that I can get. And the many I will get, I have something to say that maybe will be different from yours. And I think that's something that I always felt that I can do. Like to know your advantages and your minuses. So I think one of my advantages is that I can move a lot. And
your perspective.
Yes, and by doing that, you can achieve different points of view. And I think it's really crucial. It's really, really crucial when you're exploring a subject, your subject matter, doesn't matter what it is. I think once you do things physically, once you change, you have you will have a fuller answer, a much wider. You can get more, you can confront things that you thought, you can challenge them. Because I think everything is about the point of view, it's everything, the perspective. I mean, it can really change the way that you experience life. It's a cliche, but
yeah, totally. I think it makes really sense, because even when we, for example, 2 persons, 3 persons experience the same thing, the internal experience is completely different.
Yeah. I have students in the academy I teach, and I always I always do this drill when I give 20 people 20 cameras, and I tell them to describe like one space. For example, take a picture, try to describe a space in one picture, and you see 20 different perspectives. And the answer is that there is no one perspective that is like, you can say is more prominent. Yeah. And I think it's a very important acknowledgement that, everything, that your perspective is limited. Doesn't matter where you are, it's always limited. So I question that. So I try to jump as much as I can.
I think that's important. And I was also wondering, for example, in your case, you transform yourself into different, different personality, right? I mean, different character. Did you force yourself to do that, or it was like just following natural curiosity,
No.
or how it happened?
No, I think that you can agree with me that, sometimes, when it comes to art and artists, I like to look at it and to do things and to think about it later. Don't think too much, because it will kill something natural that you thought about. So I try to do things before and think about and deal with the consequences later. So I think when I started to analyze the kind of work that I do, I realized that I did this kind of transitions between character all along in my life. It's just I didn't have the tools to define it, but it was there all along. This urge to change and to be somebody else. I don't know. Maybe it's a defense mechanism, or it's something. It's much deeper. But I think that I found a lot of answers in acting with actors in the actors world. A lot of my techniques and the way that I work really is similar to the way that actors work. And it's something very deep, to try to be somebody else, to look like you're somebody else, to talk differently, to walk or to move differently. I think it's something very, very deep. It's an urge that I don't have I don't know why, but I'm doing it. Like I do it all of my life. And I think that art really gave me some sort of a vocabulary to think about it and to maybe to adjust it and to be more accurate with it. But it was there.
How, how did you feel like, for example, when you're a hunter, when you're a bodybuilder, they're completely different.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, if you see, I mean, some of it, I think, have a very masculine, characteristics or roles. I think that, I accept, I accept the fact that, I'm a man, or I'm bound to a very specific body, and I have a very specific, set of tools. And so I think that I try to work with, some with the mechanics that I own. And I was very much interested of, dealing with this male figure. What is the man, what is a man in the 21st century, or how should I act, or how should I behave? And because, this is who I am, I think, I chose very specific, characters to play. And I think it also attached to the place where I was at the moment. For example, I decided on purpose to wear a uniform and go to the army. In Africa, I worked as a hunter. In the States, I decided to be a bodybuilder. I think that every character was invented based on the place that I was. And I think what I try to do with it is to create some sort of a fraction, some sort of I think that it does something,
Fraction inside yourself, or fraction with outer world?
No, with the outside world, because I'm trying to provoke, I'm trying to create some sort of a dialogue. Because I can control from my end about the dialogue that I can start. I think that was what I'm interested in. I don't, I think that I was always interested in what is there, I never felt justified to deal with, I didn't think that I'm that interesting. I think that I try to do things that would be interested, to me to work with, but to live like somebody else. I always thought that the other is much more interested than me. So I think it was a big catalyst, to gain an experience, simple as that. Just to feel an experience that on different circumstances I had zero chance to experience,
Yeah, I think experience is all about our life, right? Because if you live as someone, that could be your interpretation, your perspective, and your definition of life could depend on the experiences you have had. In your case, you explore a lot of different lives, I can say. Or possibilities of life.
Yeah, I think that I decided to go on that route even before I started with art. I decided that I want to do things on my term. And I didn't want to compromise on anything. So I think it gave meaning. It gave me something. It gave me purpose to do things that I can remember. I think that memory and often the experience that I chose to do goes along. I mean, once you push on the extreme button, it's often memories that you will remember more. And so I have an issue with memory. I think it goes to photography and my issue with images or creating images, visual. It's something that I always felt sensitive to. So to create a certain image that I could remember as well as my audience, so to speak.
Do you, for example, make that picture in your mind first and implement it in reality, or it's like an ongoing process? Or
no, I have usually I see everything from advance. Like usually the routine is one day I will come to you and say, Masaki, listen, I wanna become a ballet dancer, which I was on the way to become a ballet dancer, and usually the first reaction, okay, you're not serious, and then and I see it even before, and once I declare it, then I already signed the contract. You know what I mean? Because so I already pushed that button, and once I do that, I started this route that by the end of it, I can function as the form that I saw from advance. And usually it's important to me, like to visualize everything before. I think without it, I will be lost. I think it's a kind of mechanism that I think that I developed with my time being an artist, like to try to visualize something and then to implement it. It's helpful.
So it's like a map, visual map for you.
No doubt, no doubt. Everything I do is has a mapping asset to it.
Do you see your life as like that as well?
Less. I think that is more related to my performance or my kind of relationship with the art world. Let's say mapping. I most of the time I'm dealing with mapping my action and others' history actions, things that happen, things that will happen. So I deal a lot with forecasting things that I think will be valid in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years. So I'm always thinking time-wise as well. I think it really helps to navigate, because when it comes to art, you're dealing with a lot of abstract concepts, and it's really we spoke about it. It's really like an open source. It's the only thing that I found that I'm wanted to keep doing, because it's always open. You can do everything. It's completely you can invent your structure and it will be valid. And I think that once you enter to this kind of world, when everything is open, then navigating becomes crucial, because you have to kind of feel that you're going to a place that you feel like going to, because otherwise you can get lost and it open, sometimes it happens, but you need to have some sort of a vision. But
yeah, that's also true, because in the art world, good thing, or I don't know, depends on person, but can be bad thing, but it's limitless, right? There's no, there's kind of structure, but it completely depends on you. It's up to you what you want to do.
I think in terms of the economic part of it it's very structured. There are rules. There are there is history. There is current market and everything. This is kind of very structured. But in terms of the art itself, it's very open. And I think that what I found in it and why I'm still doing it is because that I feel limitless. And I think that's maybe the only topic that I found doing that I'm still exploring. Like, I didn't manage to go to the edge. I think that everything that I did in the past, I reached to a certain limit where I felt, okay, I kind of explore it and I have no place to go. And with art, it's so complex that I'm still, I didn't scratch the surface. But I think that if I would feel like that one day, I will stop, because I think it feels a purpose. It functions. I have some sort of it serves something deeper.
So normally that's the moment you decide to change your character, for example, from hunter or bodybuilder.
Yeah, I think that
limit.
History wise, I think that I do it every, let's say, around 3-4 years. I have this urge to do it. Then I do this transformation, and then I need time to decompress. I need time to think about it. It usually draws me to a very specific mindset, but also very specific works that I produce during this time. And so, for example, the last thing that I did is to become a belly dancer. And I'm still working on that notion of being a belly dancer, working with sound and body. And I think that I didn't maximize it. Once I will feel that I will reach to the end of it, I will move to something else. But yes.
How did it happen? Like, what made you to be a belly dancer?
Belly dancer, I tell you what. So the bodybuilding project was the last thing that I did in New York before I moved to Israel. It was a 2-year project where I changed completely my life, my lifestyle. And the last thing that I did was to compete in a professional competition. I think that I added that picture. Maybe showed it. And so I ended up being 30 kilos plus what I've been before that. So I had a very specific body, and it was very, rigid, big, and you could say very masculine. And I moved to Israel. I didn't know what the hell am I going to do. I left everything, including my studio and what was inside in New York, and I started from scratch in Tel Aviv. And it took me, I think, a couple of months to think about what kind of work I want to do. And then I decided that I need to learn a local movement. And I found belly dancing, which the origin is in Egypt, a local movement that can do something, can create a certain fraction that I was interested. So I started to learn how to dance and how to move my body. I don't have any background in dancing whatsoever. So I learned it for like 1.5 years with a private instructor. So it was really interesting to see how this big body, I was more like around 100 kilos, trying to move as a belly dancer. And after, training every part of my body to become like big and defined in terms of muscles, then I was training to move it as a belly dancer, the belly, the shoulders, the hands, the legs. So it was very like almost the opposite. Like instead of becoming rigid, you have to be very flexible, very almost feminine, very feminine and that was very difficult. That was very difficult. And I think it draws something. It challenged something. It put me on a very uncomfortable situation where you see on the mirror a very big masculine, person, and you start to move like something that is more feminine. Let's put it this in. And it was challenging to accept visually, like to accept myself. And the mirror was it was challenging. It was intriguing. Because I needed to convince myself that I can move like that.
I think it's a really interesting point because we don't think much about like our gender or our movement of body.
Yeah. I think that's something that I feel very close to. I think that I'm very much visual sensitive, and I'm a very physical person. We spoke about my history as a failed basketball player. I think that I always felt that my body is my best tool. Like I'm not a good painter. I don't have a eye-hand correlation like a painter. I don't know how to sculpt necessarily. There are a lot of things that I don't know, but I always felt very fluid about body. And I think that it's something that really moves me, and I can learn a lot about how people move. Like it's something that is fascinating to see how different people move. And I think that I can draw a lot of information from it. And that's something that I think it's a form of expression. Also doing it yourself.
Sure. For example, how do experiences as a bodybuilder and belly dancer influence you? Like what kind of like shift or changes in your mind happen?
I think that the most interesting part is not necessarily the result. I think with this kind of practice, and you can think about it as, for example, an actor without a movie. So you get into a role and you transfer all of your life. So actually every day I try to be this character. So you transfer everything, like everything is shifting. And I think the most crucial parts of the artwork is the ones that you start to feel that you lose yourself, you lose your identity, you become somebody else. And I never stop. Like when I get into a character, I never stop acting. Like I do it also in my house. Like I change everything, my clothes, the way that I behave, the way that I move, the way that I eat.
Leave us that person.
The way that I talk. And I think that you can think about it as a mask. But when you deal with masks and when you deal with acting, you can decide that you stop. But when you do physical changes, you cannot remove it. And what it does, it can threat your very core, and it's a very frightening experience. And that's why I think that I need some like gaps between when I do these different ones, because it really can put me in a very unfamiliar, I don't know, existence, and it takes time to
digest it.
To digest, and it can rattle, it can move you. But I like the fraction with reality. I think that's something that I think when the mask is ready and the transformation is ready, and you're like you became somebody else, I think that's when for me it becomes interesting, because you're like undercover, like you're entering a world that you didn't have a chance to meet, like to see. And I think both. I mean, with the belly dancing, I never managed to get the full transition. I wanted to become a professional belly dancer and to work in nightclubs, and I didn't manage to achieve it. With the bodybuilding, I managed to live like completely as a bodybuilder. I worked as a professional trainer. I earned money as a personal trainer, and I think when you become independent, and when I managed to create an economical system that is not dependent in art, that is where I feel that I succeed, because it has function. It has a function in the world. I don't need art anymore. I'm free. And I think it's really interesting to think about like different economical system and art.
It's something very interesting, like looking for freedom in art and try to be free from art. This like ongoing process coming.
Love and hate relationship are always the best. Always. When something is like when something is one direction, then it becomes like it's not. You need some sort of a resistance. You need that in order to create something that is solid, that is deep enough.
To push yourself, go forward.
No doubt. I mean, it from your history as an MMA fighter, for example.
Sure. Maybe, as we have talked like 45 minutes, maybe we can take some questions if there's someone who has some question. Don't be hesitant, feel free to just, you don't need any, permission. Just ask through a question.
Yes, I have a question. Okay.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. Very interesting talk. I'm very fascinated because I'm a theater director and actor myself, although I do other things. And I was trained in Stanislavski a lot. And and I just wondered, why not act in a movie? Why not try to use it for acting roles, or is it not comparable to that? Is it not what you really aim for?
It really fits, and I often ask myself why I didn't go to that route. But I tell you what, there is something that I found in art that is more relevant in terms of the stage. The stage of it, because I think that I know of some actors that went too deep into a character that they lost themselves, like on a very mental level. I think that it happened to Angelina Jolie, for example, in that movie that she was nominated for an Oscar, that she stopped doing like to take serious roles because she felt really threatened by it, like that she will lose. And I think that to do it on a constant level, for example, working in theater stage or working, I'm afraid in the level that I feel that I can lose my identity if I will do it too often. So I need these breaks. I don't feel that I can do a lot of it. I don't know if it makes sense, but to do it on a daily practice, or to go on a stage like once a month or something like that, I feel it's too much for me. I think that I wouldn't handle it. I can't.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
So I think art, you can create a structure that will fit your capacity, what you can handle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what you did with the belly dancing sounds a little bit like how Daniel Day-Lewis works.
Yeah,
who goes
Yeah,
into
yeah,
his role, and it sounds like long periods that you are in a role, and some. So it might.
I think that, for example, you can think about Sacha Baron Cohen, which I think that this is, for example, a structure that I think that I can do.
Yeah,
I think because I think he also can expand and create, like, for example, a very intense shooting period of, I don't know, 2 or 3 months working in the States, and do these kind of interferences. I used to do stuff like that, and I think that's something that I can handle. But theater, I feel will break me emotionally, in the sense that I don't know what will happen. But
that's too much fear. Maybe that's not the good fear way.
And I have fear from audience as well, which I don't know how to handle it. I think that you can find it in with actors, that they sometimes have it, and I really, it's something that I'm dealing with it. But I think that once I manage to create some form of a mask, then I feel like bulletproof, like I can feel that I can do everything. I don't have limits, but it just takes me time to prepare it.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it makes sense from your world, your professional world, but I think most of the actors that I met, they can shift it, like they can do it right away. They can read the script, they can get into. So it's not me. It's like I need like time to convince myself that I'm that person. That's it. Like once I'm there, I'm like, I don't need to go out. That's the.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. Thanks. Great. Very.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Anyone else?
Okay, more.
I can add something if you can hear me.
Of course, yes. Yeah. Hello, Jada.
Hello. So I was wondering, I don't know who decided the title of this meeting, if you or the artist, but I was wondering, why did you use the word quantum at all here? So can you give a hint on the idea of what did you do?
Okay. It was just my, idea, and also I like this idea of quantum leap. Like, when things change, normally things change like slowly, gradually, like this, right? Like, But I like to use that word because in his case, those professions are completely different, like quantum leap. For example, hunter, bodybuilder. Yeah, maybe you can find some similarity between them, but it's like completely different transition. So that's a reason I use a quantum. And also I think this is something not common to see in our society, right? Because normally you are required to have some kind of specialty, focus, especially like when you grow up, like your parents always tell you, you choose either creative things or either more like, mathematic things. We always have to choose one of them. So we don't see many quantum leap in our lives in general. So that's the reason I wanted to use this word.
Okay, but you can also have a classical transition, right?
Sorry, so, I couldn't hear your word.
Like I feel like you are describing something that could also live in a classical realm. like a transition. So okay, I'm just pointing out that you know, like some complex word that entails you know, like a sophisticated meaning sometimes can also be abused. So yeah, I feel like some research would be nice here, like from your side before to use this word.
Okay, thank you for your advice.
Because you can just have classical transitions, right? And that's I don't know. I'm just curious how your understanding goes in this case.
You mean quantum physics?
Maybe the artist can say. Maybe the artist can say something about it, since he's the object or the subject.
I'm not sure about you're talking about transitions.
He was right. So he was about.
Okay.
Hello, Giada. We cannot hear your voice well.
Hello. Yeah. So.
We have some difficulty to hear your voice. Okay. Okay, so please go on then. Yeah, so any other questions people have?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you, Alexandra?
Good. I'm good. And thank you very much for a wonderful talk. It's very interesting. I have a question for Lior, because he's talking about the extreme fear factor. And I was wondering how that strokes with his feelings of shame or vice versa. Does those edges, do they touch?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when I think that when I'm speaking about fear, it goes to a very, I think, very, you know, private feelings, not necessarily something that you can say universal fear. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, with the bodybuilding project, I mean, part of it really touched the fact that I was always felt uncomfortable with my body. Mm-hmm. It's something that is really rooted and free from stage, from audience. And mm-hmm. I think that, for example, in that project, I really performed as a human sculpture, you can say. You know, being naked, present your body in a way that is, you know, very, you know, very open, very. And I think that, you know, I do it sometimes. I do these kind of choices in like very specifically in order to deal with something. And I think when I turned it into something extreme from my uncomfortable feel with my body still today, I think it draws a very specific energy in the project. And it's kind of funny, but, you know, even while I was working as a bodybuilder and I had, for example, I had six packs. I never had six packs in my life. It's something that I never pursued or thought it's, I don't know, attractive or desirable. I always felt, you know, fat, you know, even though I was very, like I was sculpted. Sure. I think it drew me to think about the gap between what you see and what you feel, that there is a space, there is, it's not always goes together. And I think it's really interesting. You know, when I did, I lived on the street as a homeless for 1 year. Mm-hmm. And I remember I took that choice, you know, also from the fact that I dealt with my biography being without, living without a family. And I think, every project that I did, in a way, touched a very sensitive topic with me. And I feel that I always do that, and I always choose things that also kind of heal something, or dealing with something that is
exactly. So is the fear factor, the fact that you are facing these extremes with your body, it does touch on a sense of shame somewhere.
Oh yeah.
So where does the sense of shame come from? Because it's easy for you, not easy, but for you, you're looking for a fear factor, and therefore you go out there and you're showing yourself in whatever role. But the other side of that is shame.
Yeah.
So where does the shame come from, and does it solve it for you? Does it? Let's say the belly dancing project has finished. Has it solved anything for you in the shame area?
Yeah, it does. I mean, for sure it does, because I don't like to talk about it that much, but there is a therapeutic essence to this kind of practice. Mm-hmm. It really heals something, and once you feel that you managed to achieve something on a very formal level. I competed in a bodybuilding competition. An audience saw me. It's legit. It's documented in the books. For example, there is a formal documentation of the contest. Or I worked as a professional belly dancer in a nightclub. I got the pay stub. I got money for it. It does something. I anchored something in reality. I did it. I managed to.
Is it the public? Is it the public, the direct confrontation with the public that
definitely
you get over the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because it has to be real. If it's not real, I can always tell myself, okay, that's fictional. It's art. It doesn't exist in real life. It's something that you imagine. But once you anchor something, you get these proofs. That's why I like to work with proofs. I mean, the idea of the document, the document essence in art. I like to think about things when you did something that registered in the system. You can claim, okay, I was a bodybuilder, I worked in a gym, and I looked really good, but I need this acceptance from the world that I did that. I got the paycheck. I got the paycheck as a dancer.
Good for you.
I registered in the system, as opposed to dancing in the living room. I can say that. I can invent whatever. But I was while I was a bodybuilder, one day I walked in the streets of Queens in New York, and the U.S. Army tried to recruit me. So I went to the recruitment center. And I did this whole system. They tried to recruit me because they told me, listen, you look very strong and suitable to serve in the U.S. Army. And it's quite interesting to think about how muscles can take you to places that, it's interesting to think about the states and muscles, and how muscles can lead you to be the governor of California, like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes,
I mean, the idea of power and politics. So I like when I have these encounters with the world, with systems, and how, so I need it. I think that's the most interesting part. Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay. I get it. Thank you very much. I think it's 7:31 actually, so I don't want to keep you up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So maybe before closing the event, if there is someone, could be the last question.
Well, I don't have a question. I just want to say that I have a lot in common about your travel also, and I've been to similar quantum jumps in my life also, and I'm also doing art now, coming from security business and bodyguard, and
Wow.
So but I think that I feel like my love for art now, I'm just doing it on my cell phone, doing digital collage and stuff, which really makes me comfortable. Like this is a world that I can, it's just giving me back stuff. So I guess that you can say the same with the art that you are doing. But it's just like, I was thinking of the ability I had through my life in the security business about observing and also about a lot about proof, like you talk about, that it's very important to have proof for everything, that I could sort of mix that into a new world where I could actually use the skills I have from that business. And now I'm working in a bank in fraud detection on whitewash and everything. So, and I have no education except for my public school, so this is not my goals to have education, but to learn and find new things that makes me feel good. Sorry.
Yeah, I can definitely, I can feel exactly what you're saying. It's kind of interesting when money is involved, it gives like, it transfers something into a solid one. For example, if I sold the work of art, it means I'm a professional artist. Whenever money is involved, it means, okay, it's exists in life. So it's interesting to think about what components you need to the equation in order to give something validation. It's interesting, the validation aspect. What makes something valid? An action you did, the profession, you wanted to do something.
And I also like dancing belly dance, actually.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a professional though, but the music makes me want to do it.
Yeah.
It
sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. So so it's been on 1 hour, and so thank you so much, Lior. It was really great to talk with you. It was really interesting what you have shared with me and with people. And
thank you very much for inviting me, Musaki. It was a great pleasure to talk with you. And
yeah, it has been absolutely my pleasure. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined us today.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have enjoyed.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. So see you next time, and have a great day or have a good evening.
Same to you.
Thanks to you.